Hey everyone, Daz here, and today I'm going to do my cardio day. So this is a part of my week that I've been doing, alternating with my strength days, and it's probably gone on record before that I'm not a big fan of athletes doing long, steady runs. And what I've been finding with the coronavirus is that a lot of the athletes that I've worked with, left to their own devices, when they're using their opportunity to go out and do some exercise, invariably they've been doing running. And we'll get to that in another post, why I'm not a big fan of going on long, steady runs all of the time. In fact, what I actually like to do myself, and I encourage some of my athletes to do, is a body weight circuit. Again, you can do this in limited space. We're going to do it in my patio outside. It's freezing cold, so I want to get started pretty quickly. But there's two things that I just want to share with you before we get started with the circuit. If you're working now with your clients online, particularly if this is a new client and you haven't seen them before, it is a good idea to do a couple of quick movement screens to see what kind of range of motion they've got in their upper body, what kind of range of motion they've got in their lower body, and also in an integrated type movement like an overhead squat, so you can see how they put all of those different ranges together in a functional task. And then when you've cleared them for this kind of activity, then of course you can start to get in and do things like press ups and squats and so on, which you're going to see me demonstrate in a second. So I'm going to take you through a couple of those screens and then we're going to get started with our circuit. So the first screen that I want to do is going to be a range of motion test for the upper body, and I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so this is the upper body range of motion test, and particularly we're going to be concentrating on the available range that we have in shoulder flexion. And you'll find that if you've got restrictions there, it could be for a number of reasons. It could be for having some tight pectoral muscles on the front of the body. It could be that you've got some tightness in the latissimus dorsi, the big back muscle here. It might be that you lack some mobility around the thoracic area, so there's actually a limitation in the range of kind of movement that you've got of the scapula on the actual rib cage itself. So there's lots of things that could be limiting your range of motion, but the test that we're going to do, you're going to have your feet just in front of the wall. You must make sure that your bottom and your shoulders and your head remain in contact, and then from this position with your palms facing down, you're going to slowly elevate both arms at the same time and go as high as you can without the head and the shoulders coming off, and then return. And again, what you're looking for is asymmetries between the arms, and you're making sure that when you see them lift the arm, that they're keeping the palms facing down and they're not arching their back in order to get more range. Hey everyone, so I'm going to show you the second movement screen that I like to do for the lower extremity, and that is the active straight leg raise. This is part of the functional movement screen, and it's a great way for you to screen your clients, particularly your online clients. So what you need to do is lie on your back, make sure that you've got a natural arch to your lower back, so not so big that you can get all your hands in, but equally not so flat that you can't get your hands in at all. So just a kind of a middle position where you've got a neutral curve to your spine. And then from that position, you're going to slowly lift one leg into its highest position, and be very sure to keep this stance leg straight down on the ground and keep the toes lifted without the foot turning in or out. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other leg. I know that I'm a little bit tight at the moment, but ordinarily what you're looking to do is get this stance leg so that it's directly on top of the hip, just in line with your waistband. And that is the active straight leg raise. So now that you've done the shoulder flexion test, where you've looked at the range of motion in the arms, and you've done your active straight leg raise, where you've looked at the range of motion in hip flexion, you can kind of put those two isolated movements together into an integrated pattern. And the pattern that obviously I like to do is the overhead squat. So what that looks like from this position here, your feet are going to be shoulder width apart, facing forward, and then what you're going to do is, as you go down, keep your arms above your head and your feet flat on the floor. And again, you're just looking to see how the body is able to combine the integrated movements of shoulder flexion and hip flexion, and seeing if the body is capable of getting into that kind of thighs parallel position while at the same time keeping the arms in line with the ears. And what you might find is that someone who potentially isn't very good at doing the isolate pattern in both the shoulder flexion and the hip flexion exercise, put them together in an integrated fashion, is actually able to do it because they're able to rely on some of their strength and stability to almost pull them into the positions that they need to be in. So that is the overhead squat, and it's a really good functional integrated movement screen before you start doing the body weight circuit.